you so much. We have time to questions, suggestions, and critical something. What do you want? I have also a suggestion, but after you. Please.
I have a question for Tisla. When and where, by who was the distinction between Rishonim and Acharonim made?
That's part of the question, actually, because these are words that, are, as I said, literally mean the first ones and the last ones. And therefore always, let's say today, we've been calling, Jewish history has been calling the last ones, everyone ever since 1560, okay? So then you start looking for other names, okay? So what happened, I think, also, when people were talking about the first ones, they kept talking about the first ones. And the question is, when did people start talking about the first ones and as everyone until then? Okay, so there's very few serious works written about this, trying to trace what it is. That's why I brought Wikipedia, because that's part of what I was trying to show, that these are well-known, common words used without a clear definition. And as I said, Israel Yuval showed that in Ashkenaz, in Germany, they started talking that way after the Black Death. But when today you'll ask someone, he'll put these people that were calling themselves already the last ones as part of the earlier ones. And it does have to, definitely has to do with the books I was talking about. But can you really say this is what happened and this is what made the difference? It's a big question. And as I tried to explain, I think the image is part of the transition. The whole process is, it's kind of a circle that you have to have transition already happening in order to make such a book. But once there is such a book, it makes everything earlier get into a box that changes the way people think about it.
But it's not a discourse that was only in the Ashkenazi communities.
No, not at all. And this book is not Ashkenazi. It uses Ashkenazi thought. It's more, his family was from Spain, moved into the Balkan. We're talking about different kinds of areas.
You made a very interesting comment about the contribution of the print revolution to the Joseph Caro's influence. And my question is not only for you, but for all speakers, whether the print revolution made a similar contribution in other areas, in other legal cultures in Europe.
There's a lot to be said about this, and I have spoken about this in other conferences, and I wrote about this, and it's very, very, very significant. Speaking about these works, they couldn't have been written without the print revolution, because actually the idea of having everything and having him think he has everything and really have more than what's right next to him has to do with print. And what I wrote about in my MA thesis was how he used Ashkenazi writings, that he says, I have all the Ashkenazi writings, but when you go and count what was he using, you figure out he had everything that was printed in Venice. That's one thing. And the other thing is that you can spread it out very quickly. Such a huge book that no one's going to really sit and copy. Okay, such a huge book can be spread out very quickly and be, the other side of print revolution is having everyone have everything the same. Okay, and also this idea of having one legal system that everyone should have the same system also has to do with print, and we know this about. So it's very significant.
He was the person, the right place, the right time.
I think it's more than that. I once talked about this, and I said it's like you can't learn about internet from Berg. Okay, there are people who know more, understand quicker than other people what the media is doing, and then they influence how everyone else uses it. So as I said here, he understood print in a way that made it happen that everything that he wasn't using became not worth printing. So his understanding, like a little, just one step in front of most of the other people, made a big difference to how the process continued happening.
Please.
Just a short question to Ms. Cunningham. About the results of this espionage or exploration of Italian customs, do you know any specific legal transplant that was taken over by the French, or some specific institute that was taken over that the French thought the Italians managed it better?
Not really. First, I should stress that this is more of a kind of a side project. I'm more interested in the interest that Louis had in this idea of looking at customs from other jurisdictions. At the moment, looking into what actually came over is not something I've really had the opportunity to research at the moment, although it is very interesting and will certainly add to how that was received by others and whether it was just his own individual idea of whether it was more widespread amongst other jurists who were willing to accept it. There was certainly sort of legal transplants happening in this period. There was a great interest in the customs of other areas, so it's like, the German and Saxon people going into Eastern Europe and that. So I would actually be very interested to do further research into how it has that.
I do have a question for Berg. I was wondering if a larger point could be made from your observations, and if it could be inferred that within Jewish legal history there is an organic development going on. I'm not familiar with Jewish legal history, but I've read the works of Berman and his interest in the interplay between law and religion in the Western legal tradition, and he makes the point that although there have been some revolutionary moments in which the tradition is fractured, overall the tradition has developed organically because periodically lawyers have gone back to what the authorities, the written authorities have been, and so although there have been some selections and some authors have been overshadowed, overall there has been a long-standing continuity. Would you say that something similar applies also to the Jewish legal tradition?
I think in many ways, yes, but no, as I'm sure also in these works that would be proved too. I think we heard about this when Ayelet was talking this morning about family law and rabbinic writings and how it's used today. The discussion is always, different things are in focus in different times, and I think in different generations, different questions are asked, and therefore different kinds of discussions come up. I think, and this is also part of, I think, what I showed and also other things I work on. Things that are organic inside the system always have to do with things happening in other systems, and there's like this things happening in the world at the same time. We know while Caro is making this corpus, we have in the Ottoman Empire, not far from him, a new corpus of legal writing in Muslim and Ottoman history, and we have throughout the 16th and 17th century, there are all these codices coming up throughout Europe. Things are happening that have to do with processes that are happening in the Jewish history and law, but there's also always, I don't think you can look at it without looking both inside and outside at the same time. That's what I try to do in my research. I think any choice that would be only focusing outside or only focusing inside is going to miss part of the picture. I don't think you could seriously do only one of them.
So,
I have one question to Mr. Benoit. How was the relation between vicarius and vir idoneus? Because in Poland, the vicarius was episcopal delegate to the Orthodox churches, and what is most surprising that the kings or princes was given this title, like Polish king Władysław Jagiełło or Lithuanian Witold.
In the constitutions of the Fourth Lateran Council, the institution of vir idoneus is something like general, I think, and the constitution precised after that the bishop can appoint a vicarius, because I think that the institution of vicarius can be can be concentrated on ecclesiastical competencies, like penances, like hair confessions, or something like that. Maybe the institution of Vir Idoneus could be considered as a lay person and the ecclesiastical person. I think maybe we have the both. But for the ecclesiastical competencies, the bishop can only appoint a vicarius as an ecclesiastical officer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, another question? No. I have something to ask to you. I've not understood so good how this confrontation, why this confrontation between Roman law, Byzantine law, and then land law of Western countries and German countries and so on. Explain me, because the problem of law, the problem of the land law is very hard, very difficult, and very complicated. And this problem has lived our life during the centuries. So the problem of land in Germany and in Poland during that time is sure a problem of feudalism. I explain. Or our historiography say that it's a problem of feudalism. This is our habit in our mind. The problem of the land during Roman time, especially during late antiquity, and after, during the Byzantine era, you have spoken about the nomos georgikos, the nomos stratiotikos, but traditionally this is another kind of problem. I mean, we have had not an experience of feudalism. In Rome, sure okay. Not. In Rome, sure not. We have had the experience of the Colonatus, but the Colonatus is totally another thing. It is not comparable. Even if some Marxistic historiography has spoken about Roman feudalism, but it's really a historiography of propaganda, Marxistic socialist propaganda. Also during the Byzantine time, we have had, for example, the institution of the pronoia, but the pronoia is very late during the Komnenian time, during the dynasty of Angels, very late in the history of Byzantine world, and it is another thing. So my suggestion is, I've not so understood this kind of confrontation between Roman time, Byzantine time, so Eastern law, land law, and Western land law that for me is a problem of feudalism in medieval Germany.
Well, I think I presented this evolution line because of that the German settlements or Jus Teutonicum wasn't only the feudal law, because the feudal law concentrate on the personality ties of the people. So we have a king, sovereign, and his knight, vassal, yes? And when we have only personality ties, this is a feudalism, yes? And because the settlements has their own communities, self-government, there wasn't personally tied to the sovereign. Only the community was tied to sovereign. And I believe that it wasn't feudal, and it migrated from before feudal times, from Roman Empire, and through Byzantine organization. So I think it's the answer for your question, because I don't depict it or describe feudalism in Poland, because it's very complicated matter, and well, we don't know what is feudalism in Poland, because it was so strange. There was no French model feudalism or English Norman version of it. There was something even more strange because of this strong Slavic princes which have very strong power. And I believe that with the changes and beginning of the feudalism in Poland, they've also incorporated some other different regulations, probably from Roman law. That's all.
Okay, so yeah, so maybe maybe the presence of the army, the presence of the Ius Teutonicum could be another thing. I don't know, but I'm not.
Well,
I'm not an expert
it's only
about
a guess.
this.
It's only a guess, because anyone has an idea why the Ius Teutonicum come to life, or the COP contract in Flanders.
Okay, so we are finished. I think. Oh, you have any other questions? I think so. No. Okay. So I have to say thank you to our organizer and to our friends for the very interesting papers and so on.